Look, this year's been great. Before you, it was all about Hillary Faye dragging my ass around all the time. And when you left yesterday, I stuck on my own. It was okay. So, I realized that I might just be relying on you. The same way I was relying on Hillary Faye. I don't want to be the guy who's with the girl because he needs her. I want to be the guy who's with the girl because he wants her. And I want you.
I want you too.
Hello, listening people.
Hello.
You're listening to Spit and Polish Presents Pictures Powwow. I am one of your hosts, Ryan Sawinski.
And I'm Bartek, also a host.
Hello, Bartek. How are you?
Good, I am good. How are you good?
I am very good and well.
Well.
I am very well. The Lord has blessed me in this particular episode of Pictures Powwow, our weekly show in which you and I, the hosts of this show, believe it or not, we're not imposters. We didn't replace the real versions of Ryan and Bartek. We're not definitely like clones or anything.
We are not impastors.
Yeah, exactly. Oh boy.
It's a religious reference.
We are spit and Polish, likely because we are always spitting, and we both happen to be Polish.
Yes, and I'll prove it now. I'll prove that we're Polish. God, I love John Paul II.
See? And he's Catholic, evidently.
Yeah, and he's Polish.
Or he's gay. He might have been like, I love him. But who knows? We'll have to find out in this episode.
I think despite his, incredible fame, I think he was still a little bit of the homophobic variety.
Oh, what? A Catholic Pope? Homophobic? In a way. No, Bartek, we're doing Pictures Powwow. This is a show in which we cover a movie that has been recommended, whether it's from you, me, or the listening people. This episode, we had a Listening People's Choice Award
Listening
ceremony.
individual people.
Yeah, one of our friends from university, Lucy, recommended the film we're covering today. What is that film?
Saved!
Jesus. Saved, with an exclamation mark at the end.
Yes. But proper capitalization, lowercase.
Yeah.
Just with an
Saved
exclamation. Yeah.
is a film from 2004 that was recommended to us. Now, if you listening people have not had the chance to watch the film Saved, we recommend that you go away, check it out, come back.
Oh, you recommend it?
Well, we recommend that they check it out so that they can fully appreciate the nuances of the conversations we're going to get into in this episode, because we're going to delve into the nitty-gritty, the details, the characters, all the stuff.
And the faith.
And the faith and everything in between. So, Bartek, this was a recommendation from one of our university friends.
Mm-hmm.
We both said at the end of the last episode that we didn't know what this was.
No, we didn't.
We had never heard of this film before.
But I
didn't even know what it was about. I didn't know who was in it. I just put it on.
Yeah,
And it was like, I'm getting a hit with a lot of things.
Yeah, same.
Mainly, it's Macaulay Culkin's in this movie. That was a big hit.
That was the main name I noticed, yeah. I think just before I watched the film, I saw like a one-sentence synopsis, but then I kind of forgot it.
Right.
Then the film started and I saw all the imagery.
Yeah, I saw a lot of things.
The exclamation mark when the title showed.
And the music, the Christian song, and
in the clouds.
Yeah. So this film, our history with it is we had not seen it until doing it for this show. Yeah. This is the mystery box, people.
I was literally thinking that last night. Like, we're basically doing a mystery box.
But, once I started to watch it, I understand why this was recommended to us, and I completely understand why the person who recommended this to us recommended this to us. This is, to break down the plot just briefly, in case, the people are not familiar or haven't checked it out or just need a refresher. The plot of this movie is set in the setting is a very Christian environment. All of our characters are very Christian, except for one Jewish girl.
Like an evangelical Protestant.
Yeah, and they all go to this very hoity-toity, very high-end Christian school, and it's very much everyone is kind of that brainwashed kind of Jesus and God, and everything's going to be great. And our main character, Mary, her boyfriend reveals to her that he is gay, and she believes that Jesus has spoken to her to tell her to save him
to cure him
from
of his
gayness. So she believes that sacrificing her holy virginity will be what saves him, and she ends up getting pregnant.
Essentially, the film is a character arc for this character, questioning her faith and what she believes.
And who her friends are.
Yes, but the main thing is the tone of the film is like religious satire without going too far, I think.
Yeah, and she gets pregnant, and it's basically a series of events unfold from there. She's hiding the pregnancy from everyone. Certain people find out, certain don't, and faith is tested,
and
friendships are broken, enemies are made.
Her closest allies become the people that she wasn't really that close to, or that you wouldn't think she'd be friends with.
And Macaulay Culkin's in it.
And Macaulay Culkin.
And he's
the token apart from the girl, he's the token non-Catholic of the Catholic bunch.
Well, they're not Catholics.
Sorry, Christian.
Christians, yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to scare, because apparently some Christians are scared of Catholics. Or
they're
something.
like, we're Christians. That's Catholic. And I'm like, I don't know what
Those
that
people
means.
that came to your door once or whatever.
Yeah, no, I know many people have said that to me over the years. Don't worry. So, Bartek, what did you think about this movie?
You know what? It wasn't the best film, but I had a good time with it.
Okay, what about it worked and didn't work for you?
So we've mentioned it a couple of times on the podcast that I have grown up in a slightly more Christian environment than yourself. Not that would dissuade or not add things to your perspective, but I was looking at this.
I mean, I've lived with Christians.
You have, yes. Well, technically, I have
one's
too.
one's like this though.
So one of the things I was looking at was, okay, this film is clearly, satirizing religion. So I wanted to see at the end of it, like, what the outlook would be. So that was something that I found very interesting. By the end of the film, actually, to go back to the beginning, obviously when I saw the title, the exclamation mark was literally a cross over a dot. And it was clearly religious. The whole opening narration was basically, I love Jesus.
I was worried at the very beginning. I mean, I knew I shouldn't have been worried because Macaulay Culkin was in it, but I'm like, oh, did Lucy recommend one of these faith-based films to us to be a dick?
Is this something Cinema Snob should review? So I was wondering, like, okay, what's the tone of this film going to be, and what's its overall message going to be? And I was surprised at the end that it wasn't a very cynical one. I found that refreshing.
Yeah.
Obviously, this is a comedy, and it feels like it's tailored more towards a female audience, so there was a bit of a disconnect there, but I think it did a decent enough job overall.
Yeah.
I'm very curious to hear what Mr. Well, I mean, I'm not one to talk, but you haven't exactly enjoyed all the listening people's choices we've had so far.
Well, that's true. Unfortunately, I have not.
Yeah.
Well, this was an interesting movie, to say the least. I'll go with this. I did enjoy this movie. Yay!
Yes,
I
that's
liked
good.
it. I have some issues with it.
Mm-hmm.
The issues that aren't detrimental, like some of the issues I've had with other movies. I mean, you can say they are, but for me, the things that work about it work so strongly. But yeah, I do have some issues with it, but overall, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I liked the experience that the journey took me on. I liked the characters. I liked the humor. The humor really gelled with me. I'm more familiar with these types of movies than you are, I would say. This is one of those movies that if you had a Blu-ray or DVD collection, you would sit this movie right next to stuff like Mean Girls, Jawbreaker, Heathers, The Waitress, like these kind of female comedy-esque type of movies that aren't like Bridesmaids or stuff like that. These are more like finding your identity, coming of age movies with a kind of dark, twisted, comedic conceit in the center of it all.
Yeah.
And with kooky characters. You were also sitting next to it Empire Records.
Saint Trinians, maybe?
Saint Trinians, yep. Stuff like that. Maybe, Saint Trinians, I'm not too sure, but and Empire Records, I just say there's some similarities, but this feels a little bit more independent and kooky, like the stuff I mentioned, while Empire Records feels a little bit more Hollywood kooky.
Yeah.
Well, stuff like Mean Girls and Heathers and Jawbreaker and nice together. This is the Christian takedown entry, while the others are more about femininity and socialism, social classes and all. That's also in this too, but
Yeah,
this has the religious angle on it as well.
It's a lot of those things, but with Christian twists or whatever.
So, I was very thrilled seeing this. It was so nice to not know anything about this movie. A lot of the times when we've covered movies on this show, we still have an inkling of something about it. You know, with Pictures Powwow, I think I've known every single movie that we've done thus far, at least known about them. Whether I have or haven't seen them is a different case, but I've at least known what I was going to be watching. Like with Two Hands, I knew I was going to be watching an Australian crime movie, and, you know, once you know that, you're like, okay.
Oh,
no.
I thought you were talking about Mystery Box. I'm like, where are you going with this?
Oh,
They're mysteries.
Yeah, the Mystery Box, obviously,
Sorry,
is a
you're
different
talking about
case.
Pictures Powwow.
Pictures Powwow. I think I said Pictures Powwow, but
I must have heard wrong.
and even with Unappreciated Masterpieces, I usually had an inkling of what we were watching, but this is a different case for this type of show and with a recommendation of it. So I walked into this with optimism, and I came out optimistic as well. Like I said, I have some issues, but we'll get into that a bit later. Bartek, what was some of the stuff that you really enjoyed about this movie? Characters, moments, just general.
So I did enjoy. I guess it kind of reminded me of 13 going on 30.
Or suddenly 30, depending where you're from.
I was about to say 30 going on 30, so not much difference. It reminded me of that because at the beginning of the film, that film established like, oh, this is the character that we're following, and these are other characters that they do not get along with. And then when the film progresses, that like kind of switches around a little bit. Obviously, there's a twist there where they break away from that character later on.
Yeah.
But in this one here, I did enjoy that aspect. I already mentioned it, that the main girl starts getting along with the characters that, you know, are the outsiders, and the characters that she was super close with are now the characters that are basically the antagonists of the film.
Yeah.
I did enjoy the whole Christian-based thing, like, because this is a satire, so there's obviously the huge exaggeration of, well, I say exaggeration, but I'm sure you're looking at me like it's not an exaggeration.
It was very scary watching this movie at times. I was like, oh, fuck.
Yeah.
I've seen this. I've lived this.
I've already said the word of evangelical in this episode. But yeah, just the whole hypocrisy, I guess. Like I said, this film isn't completely cynical about religion.
No, it has some upbeat things about religion. It's more pointing a finger at how certain individuals twist faith and religion for their own means and understandings, and to make themselves feel superior or comfort.
Yeah, the whole hypocritical angle was a big focus of the film. And I know that towards the end, it even established that, like, our antagonist and our protagonist both thought that they were following what Jesus told them to do.
Yeah.
So that was a good little parallel there.
I thought he was going to say parable. Parable. Jeez, Bartek, you're going to go full on, are you?
It's like the Good Samaritan, Ryan.
Oh, my favourite.
There were two dickheads that didn't help the little guy, but then the Samaritan came along, and he was a Samaritan.
Yeah, I got it now. It's no year one.
That's what year one was missing, a Good Samaritan.
I think it had that. I think it had the Good Samaritan in it. Yeah, we have to rewatch year one. It's been too long.
I still have the DVD.
You got to rewatch it now.
Let's get Liam.
He loved it.
Oh wait, David Cross was the Samaritan.
No, he was Cain.
He was Cain.
So you were saying that you did enjoy the fact that, although it is a satirical takedown of religion, it doesn't totally condemn it as an institution or as a part of an individual's life. More that it's the fact that certain individuals have a hypocrisy about it. I agree. I think that is the strength of this movie. I could see a lot of Christian people being very much against this movie, and I could see them taking it as a personal attack, and sometimes it is an attack.
I know that in the reception section on Wikipedia there was like 1 or 2 examples of people being like, no, this is no good, half a star out of 5.
Yeah, and look, and a lot of things production wise happened to this as well, where certain people and individuals found out about what the film
that's right,
and pulled out like certain filming locations and catering and whatnot. So I think that that this movie's doing a good job of satirizing and making fun of religion in not truly an offensive way in comparison to stuff like, say, the thing that South Park guys do and Family Guy and a lot of other mainstream, more comedic forces when they have a piss on religion. It's more of an aggressive takedown with, like, we'll take no prisoners kind of attitude. But this is kind of a bit more forgiving and understanding. And at the end of the day, a lot of the characters still believe in God. And the ones that don't are more understanding of the ones that do. And they all learn to love and appreciate one another. Even they appreciate and care for the villainess at the end of this movie. So I think that is a valuable strength of this movie. This could have been a real easy road to go down where you're like, and I'm going to make like one of those American high school movies. It's set in a Christian school, and at the end, we decapitate Jesus's head on the cross.
And there's gonna be an overly friendly priest that's very touchy, and
he does backflips. The pastor guy, the principal. Remember that scene where he did a backflip onto the stage and started wooing? Remember that?
Fuck, I don't.
After they did their singing on the stage at the school.
Oh, right.
And he,
that was way earlier.
Back flips on or front flips. He just starts flipping on. I'm like, what the hell is this guy doing?
I need to see that again.
Yeah, you missed it. You missed it.
I saw every frame of the film, but
every frame's a painting.
Oh, wait, I blinked sometimes, so.
You blinked,
maybe
and you missed it.
I missed the subliminal flame.
Did you have any particular moments of comedy that you enjoyed? Because this is a comedy film.
I do remember there was one line that made me laugh, but it slipped my mind. I'm not saying there was only one line, but there was
one. You hear it?
But there was one in particular where I was like, ah ha ha. I think it was a somewhat dumb joke, though. It was like a joke that ended a scene, then it hard cut.
I enjoyed Hilary Faye a lot.
She was a lot of fun.
I enjoyed her trying to convert the Jewish girl. I enjoyed when the Jewish girl started to tell her all of her sins, like, oh, there's all the swears, of course, and she's just like, of course there are.
Those two were amazing characters.
And they gelled really well off one another. They were really, really, like, uniting in their performances. I loved when she had to cover her mouth when she was talking about, like, all the oral sex. Like, okay, I can't handle this. Or when she started speaking in tongues.
She's just saying offensive things like my pussy is hot or whatever.
Yeah, and Hilary Faye starts standing up and taking charge of all this. It's so great. I also like that sequence where you heard everyone's prayers.
Oh yeah,
that was a fun little sequence where the camera starts going around each one of them, and they all have something going on.
Yeah.
I liked I'm forgetting the character's name, but the Asian friend in the group.
Tia, was it?
Tia was the one that nobody liked, right? Wasn't that Tia?
One.
Wasn't the one from Princess Diaries?
You're the one that has
but what I liked about her was how we heard all about her life in the very beginning, where she's just like, yeah, I got adopted, and you see her like black family like waving Veronica. And then when she's praying, she's like, thank you for not, like, sending me to the eternal flames or whatever. It's like, oh.
That was a really good thing to have in a beginning act. It gives you, like, a little insight to the characters.
Yeah. I thoroughly enjoyed when it did get those slightly more pressing the boundaries of the logic of the filmmaking. Like, this film never got surreal, but it did look at surreal elements and kind of nod at it. Like, like that's a little bit like goofy and different than just if you panned over and they're all praying in silence. Like, at least you got to hear their internal thoughts, and it was kind of like a fun, goofy aspect of the movie. And they had other little moments of interesting filmmaking choices along the way. I thought this was a really enjoyable movie overall. Did you have a favorite sequence in this movie? Like a scene that really stood out, or sequence of events that really was like, yeah, they nailed that, or I really, really enjoyed it?
I don't know so much about nailing, but I enjoyed all of the interactions between...
Man, if you just said Christ after that, I don't know about nailing Christ, but they did paint him.
I don't know about nailing scenes, but I really like Christ, actually. I enjoyed all the interactions between the Jewish girl Cassandra and Macaulay Culkin.
Roland.
Yeah, because these two characters are the main two outsiders of the film, especially at the beginning.
Yeah.
And you have this sense of like, oh, well, Macaulay Culkin, he's crippled in this film.
And he's the younger brother of
Hilary
Faye.
the antagonist. So he's in a wheelchair and he has to be driven around, and he's clearly not of a man of faith.
No.
He just wants to read his comic books and just
listen to music.
And snark about things. And then you're introduced to Cassandra.
Just like Macaulay Culkin.
Just like Macaulay Culkin.
Macaulay, I know you're listening.
I
Love you.
thought I was watching Home Alone just with a wheelchair.
I thought I was just watching a documentary about Macaulay Culkin pretending to be in a wheelchair, yeah.
Yeah, this is like 15 years before he was on Angry Video Game Nerd.
Oh boy.
Wait,
And Red Letter Media.
He didn't look that different, actually.
No, he's actually aged flawlessly from 24 to now. He had a weird phase with long hair, but now he's back to normal.
Damn, he's 40 next year?
Macaulay,
crazy to
don't
think
tell us
about.
that. That's a lie.
You're a child forever.
You're a child in
marbles.
our hearts.
Yeah, Cassandra, she's the Jewish girl in the school who there's a bunch of rumors about how she used to be a stripper and all that.
That she facilitates.
That she facilitates and just like admits like I'm not really a stripper. Yeah, and the film I didn't know what the film was going to do with her, but I liked where they went with her. You know, she was the non-Christian person that had a sense of morality.
I liked when she put rotting meat.
Bacon, was it?
Bacon in the locker,
Yeah.
and then she was like, I've decided, I'm going to worship Satan. Ah! And then she walks away, and the chick's was like, ah! Hilary Faye's just so thrown out. So you were more talking about a favorite character there.
Yeah.
Did you have any favorite, scene or sequence of events that happened in this movie? You're really struggling.
I know. I mean, I enjoyed the film. Really, I did.
It just didn't stick with you, huh?
No, it stuck with me. I just thought the whole thing was, generally really good.
I really enjoyed that whole sequence of events of when Hilary Faye starts to try and be the soldier of God and convert her back by kidnapping her in the van and trying to perform an
abduction scene.
exorcism.
Yeah.
Which I find very amusing because they're not Catholics, so they can't be performing exorcisms. But, you know what I mean. That's a very Catholic thing to do. But in movies and with dumbass Christians, they think that they can, but they can't.
I liked when she threw the book.
And then it's like, you don't use that as a this is not a weapon.
You idiot.
You idiot. Yeah, I liked that whole moment where our antagonist who thinks they're a good person and they've been enlisted to bring our main character back into the fold, and they immediately go with, I'm going to exorcise her demon out of her. Not, I'm going to have a conversation or maybe, do a prayer or anything. She's like, immediately, she goes with, I'm going to exorcise a demon out of her. Because that's what's going on, obviously. I mean, there's no other options here.
Earlier in the film, we're introduced to the main character's boyfriend. The one that ends up being gay, and
Dean.
Yeah, and he kind of takes a back seat, especially in the middle act of the film, because he's sent to a
Mercy House.
A Mercy
which is
House.
Basically one of those scary ass Christian places where they lock you up.
Yeah,
and do shit to you. Basically, gay conversion therapy is going on there.
Yeah, it's gay conversion therapy, but also a bunch of other things on top of that, like single mothers and all that.
It's a big umbrella of disturbing stuff that they got going on there.
Yeah, aside from one shot of him talking on the phone, we never really see anything going on there.
We see him in bed.
Well, yeah, I know, but
looking at the guy, and they're like, ooh.
But we don't see any of the practices there, and
but he literally escapes from there at the end.
Yeah, there's a whole off-screen film. We don't hear events.
Well, there's
happening
an
there,
off-screen film that got made last year by Joel Edgerton that's called Boy Erased, which is all about this guy's journey into going to one of those gay conversion therapy places. We've already got that movie. You could watch it, Bartek.
I know, but what I'm saying is, in the last act, he and a bunch of other people from that camp just suddenly turn up. It's like, we escaped. It was like, oh, well, we don't know what was happening there, but you escaped.
Did you want more scenes cutting to them of tying sheets together and throwing it out a window and climbing them down in the spotlight?
I wanted a whole spy film going on at the same time.
You wanted the Great Escape going on in the background, right? You wanted them to dig tunnels, and a shovel would come down in front of them, and they look up, and it's like one of the mums being like, no, and he's like, oh, and all these failed escape attempts.
And very scary wardens.
Yeah, but they're all like your
They're
your
all-
friendly auntie looking kind of ladies. Where they're
That
like,
and Book of Mormon people.
yeah, the Book of Mormon type of people. Yeah. I mean, I really enjoyed the character of Hilary Faye. I thought this was a very interesting antagonist, especially in these types of movies. In these types of movies, the antagonist, whether it be Rose McGowan or from Jawbreaker, or the Heathers from Heathers, or Regina George from Mean Girls, they're usually very similar to this character, where they're socially on the top, they're pretty, they're rich, they're sociopaths or psychopaths with little feeling. But the interesting twist with Hilary Faye in comparison to those is she has a fanatical belief that she is justified and right in her understanding, and the entire world that we see in this movie supports that attitude and has cultivated that. Well, something like
She believes she's like the ultimate lawful good.
well, something like the other ones are more based in a more understandable version of our reality, where you can understand like these kind of women were propelled because their good looks and money. Well, this is more of that as well, but also the fact that she's the most pro-Christian person in this universe.
She's basically this film's equivalent of like the most popular girl in school, you know, like one of the 5 girls or whatever.
Yeah.
5 chicks. Fuck, I had a point to make.
Was it about Hilary?
It was about her. Yes. Oh, when she was first introduced and she was like shooting the gun. Because I didn't know where the film was going with the whole...
You thought they introduced the gun in the first act, using the third?
No, I actually didn't think of that until I was reading the trivia, where one of the endings was her shooting up the school, apparently.
I would have loved that.
Apparently this film had 200 rewrites, but sure.
Wow. Okay.
So anyway, yeah, in that first scene where she's like giving advice, like I thought maybe this film is still gonna be not to the edgy extreme of like South Park and Book of Mormon and all that, but like I thought it was gonna be like kind of like the Book of Mormon, Christianity is the best thing all the way through, and she was gonna be like a Gemma Arterton from St. Trinian's kind of character, like she's going to be the mentor character because she knows what she's talking about,
right?
And because of the tone of the film, I thought that like that was going to be supported there, and it was going to be funny because she's so extreme. So when she did end up being like antagonist, and she becomes more like the characters you mentioned in those other films, like the bitchy popular girl, I thought like there was a precedent that would have happened, but I actually didn't see it coming because of my expectations. So I was pleasantly surprised by that.
I loved her journey in this movie of descending into complete madness.
Yeah.
And the fact that although she's a terrible person, that she's twisted these beliefs, there are points where you understand why. For instance, she keeps constantly getting bullied by this other girl at school, the Jewish girl. Cassandra. And she always takes it up to Pastor Skip.
Yeah, the principal.
And he, as a principal, does nothing. He's like, God will sort it out, we'll be fine. And that's like, you can understand why it propels her to, like, obviously it's wrong, but it propels her to vandalize the school and do all these terrible things even more so. So the institution that she believes should be working isn't working because the institution that she believes in is working. So the school institution's failing her because the religious institution is succeeding. Do you see what I mean by that?
I kind of do, yeah.
So it's like her own religious fanaticism has bitten her in the ass because the principal's not going to do anything because God's going to sort it.
Yeah, but she does have that line later on where she mentioned, I think it was her, correct me if I'm wrong, but like, she said, I told you this thing, but you didn't do anything about it?
Yeah.
That was her?
Yeah, and she gave him the recording and, like, literally all this stuff that would have been enough for him to at least put her on suspension.
Well, yes, he wanted evidence, not science, and he got evidence. That's a callback to many years.
He needs evidence of receipts that are found at the bottom of the car seat.
Well, signature's what does it for him.
Well, the signature does it at the end. What did we think of our main character of Mary and her journey and I guess the romance? Because it's also a romance movie on a level.
Yep. So
Not as a strong a level, but on a level.
yeah, you said that this film has a narrator.
Mhm.
I mainly
We're back in that territory. We
Yeah.
went away from one episode with no narrator character, but we're back in. It's really making me realize how many movies rely on narrators.
Yeah, sometimes it's weird to think about how on Wikipedia, when you look at like a page for a film, and it has all like the box in the top right corner and has all that information. Sometimes they have a like narrated by thing there. And it's like, oh, there's a reason they have that, I guess, because a lot of films have narrators. I mainly remember her narration from the very beginning of the film to like set the stage and who she is. And I found that pretty funny because it like just cemented like I'm super religious, blah blah blah. My dad died. I tried to do the same thing and die, and she was stopped.
Like, God had a plan for me.
Yeah, just a lot of very on the nose religious things there that you can kind of see the tone of where this film's going.
And you have a great juxtaposition thrown in with each one of those, like when they're painting Christ or whatever, and it's all happy.
And Macaulay Culkin.
And Macaulay Culkin gets called like a retard or something like offensive from the sister, or like
it's like the wrong kind of like
attitude. And then
like he's not retarded, he's just in a wheelchair.
Yeah, no, she's like, "Are you mentally retarded too?" Because he says something. And
it
then
was about Jesus
you
being
have like,
brown.
"Oh, we're a group of girls just doing our best, being so friendly to everyone." As they show them protesting and throwing shit at women coming out of the Planned Parenthood clinics, and you're like,
that's an immediate like juxtaposition of good thing but not good thing.
yeah, it's a classic comedy moment, and it really lands very well in that opener. I liked Jena Malone's performance as Mary. I liked Mary overall as a character. There were certain aspects of her story that I didn't care for, but overall the character, the arc that she goes on, and the way, for the most part, that she goes on that journey, and the performance, I think did a really good job. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I like the twist of the knife of her getting pregnant on her first time, and the complications that sets in for the story, and the forming of friendships and the deterioration of others. I thought that was really well done. I thought Jena Malone did a really great job. I'm not as familiar with her as an actress. I've seen her in some stuff. Usually playing very opposite of this. Usually she's in stuff I've seen, she's been more of antagonistic or kind of unnerving or stuff like that. At least that's what I can claim to have seen from her work. While this, this is her young, and she's all like bright-eyed, and she's just learning slowly that life's going to be miserable. I thoroughly enjoyed her. I thought she was a great central character to guide you through this world.
Yeah. In my year 11 or year 12 religious education class, I can't remember which year, I remember, growing up in high school, RE was a mandatory subject from 7 through 11, then 12 you didn't have to do it. I still did it in 12, because I remember through 7 and 10, it was kind of like, just another class, whatever, it's easy, just do it.
Yeah.
And then in year 11, I had a really good RE teacher, and a lot of things were like really clicking for me. I'm like, oh, I think I can actually see the appeal of religion now, really.
Yeah.
And I remember one of the points she made was that religion is like a personal experience.
Yep.
You kind of take out what you want to take out. And I really like that perspective. So, like when you see like an ultra-religious person, everything's like really typical about them. Like, oh, you have this stereotypical belief, like homophobia or whatever like that. That's kind of makes you like roll your eyes, be like, oh, typical religious person. But I really liked in this film, it kind of touched into that idea of the personal experience. Like they teach in this film that premarital sex is bad, and
homophobia is bad.
And homophobia is bad too. I make that sound like a tangent thing. Like, yes, sure, it is.
Obviously.
But I did like the angle of she saw premarital sex as having... I know there was the whole, like, gay conversion thing going on, but they played it kind of, like, genuinely.
Yeah.
I guess early on, to the point that it's like, oh, I know this is a bad thing, but they have good intentions.
Yeah.
And she saw premarital sex as having some sort of purpose.
Yeah.
Which I can kind of appreciate, even though overall it is a bad thing. But like the heart was in the right place, and it was like a unique perspective. And like when she questioned in class, like, oh, what if there is like a, part of God's plan to have premarital sex, and she was just told, like, what are you talking about?
I don't understand.
That was that was like an example of, the personal experience, the personal thoughts versus, the typical.
Yeah.
That was another angle I liked. I'm coming off very Christian this episode, aren't I?
Hallelujah. Jesus.
Marijuana.
Marijuana. Oh, you're talking about Reefer Madness?
Last week, Ryan showed me Reefer Madness the musical, and there were some things in this film that reminded me of that.
Good.
Jesus didn't appear though.
Well, his likeness appeared in the pool.
There's a giant picture of Jesus.
Oh, I meant the pool.
Oh, and the
swimming pool when the guy saved her from the pool and she saw Jesus and he's like, save him. What I will say, to go into more positives before we get into my issues, I think all the actors are doing a brilliant job. I think that the comedy works really well. I like the friendships and relationships between each character for the most part. I really liked Roland, Macaulay Culkin and Susan Sarandon's daughter. Their relationship was really believable, really solid. I liked them becoming like this trio of friends, and I liked.
I like that a lot.
I liked that a lot. I liked all this stuff, but the big thing that we got to talk about with this is, we have been talking about, but this whole takedown on religion stuff is so well done in my belief. Like, I think this was really classy. I think it never gets to us atheists wrote this, fuck you, to us going to Catholic school when we were 12. It never felt like petty.
Yeah.
It always felt like very justified, and there were some Christian characters that still come out good at the end of this, like ones that didn't go on the journey that these main characters did, but others that had their own little journeys that still remain Christian throughout, that still come off pretty good, like the mum, she was Christian throughout the whole movie, and she never questioned her faith or anything to a degree or anything, so, and she still comes out pretty good at the end of this. I think it's interesting with our backgrounds. You grew up in a more religious environment than me. You went to a religious school. I went to a public school.
You didn't wear school uniforms, did you?
Yes.
Oh, you did? Oh, I think I remember you saying you wore like jeans or something at one point.
Oh, when I was finishing school, I just stopped wearing them because you're like,
I guess
you got 2 weeks left. No one gives a shit.
Oh, the last 2 weeks. Okay.
When you're finishing up school in Australia and in New South Wales, you get to that point where it's just nothing but exams. So it's like, what's the point?
Oh, well, in this state, when you're in VCE, you just don't go to school except for exams, so you don't have to wear the uniform.
Oh, yeah.
It's not like Japan where you have to wear it like on weekends if you're going to school or whatever.
So what I was going to say was, yes, it's very interesting because we have different religious backgrounds, so this film influenced in different ways. I'm a lot more negative on religion, I would say. I'm not anti it. I represent myself as, I believe myself to be more of an agnostic, but I've had more negative run-ins with religious people. I mean, I lived with 2 religious people in my life when I've grown up and lived in share houses. One of which was hiding their Christianity from us because they were ashamed to admit it to people their own age in this city, because you can get a frowned upon look. But since they were hiding it from us, it kind of, when it came out like it was times 10, because it was this bubbling up and then release of random Christianity and beliefs, and you go, oh, okay, wow, right, that came out of nowhere.
I won't guess the name, but keyword Twin Peaks wine, is that the person you're talking about?
Person we've had on this podcast.
Oh, okay.
And then I lived then with the craziest Christian person who genuinely believed that God spoke to her. So when in movies, when they believe that Jesus or God speaks to them, I take it at face value a little more nowadays, because I lived with someone who believed that God spoke to them. They didn't believe that God spoke to them with his voice or whatever. It was more the intuitions of yourself or God's will speaking through you kind of stuff, and I found that very terrifying.
You've told me many stories.
She believed more that the things that she didn't want in life were God telling her that she should do those things in life, which I find very disturbing. But that's kind of what this movie had going on with it as well. Certain characters doing things that they wouldn't necessarily want to do, but believing that's God's will for them to do, and ruining their own happiness in the process of fulfilling what they believe God's will is. So I see a lot of this critical takedown, and I see how I've seen that firsthand in real life, and I go, yeah. So when I see characters like Hilary Faye, Hilary Faye,
That's her name.
And her group of people and this school and the environment, I really empathize with our trio of characters that are outside, because it is a terrifying environment. It is so alien and odd and creepy and disturbing and unsettling to someone like me, and I think even to someone like you, with the way that the movie constructs this universe.
It was a lot more extreme. Like in my schooling, obviously there were a lot of like brothers, or my primary school had a church like next to it, and like we saw the priests.
Also, we're from Australia. No offense, America, but your extreme Christians are a lot more terrifying than our extreme Christians.
What was I gonna say? Something about Christianity in my schools.
You had brothers.
Oh, right. Yeah. The schools that I went to are part of the De La Salle Brotherhood, which is a whole international organization. So not only did we have, like, general Catholicism, we also had, like, De La Salle Brotherhood beliefs, like, throughout the whole thing. Like, I still remember the bloody hymn to the founder and everything like that.
Man, I remember at my public school, I found out, like, near the end that our school had a song. Like, its own song. And it sounded
When I said
terrible.
Hymn to the Founder, that's our school song, yeah.
Like, it had its own song written for itself, not like a pre-existing song.
Yeah.
And it sounded like Xanadu.
The weird thing is, because I went to the two high schools, the one that finished at year 10, then you moved on to the next one. They both had the same school song, but the first one played it way, way, way more, like 20 times more than in the second one, and it was a lot more somber, whereas the second one, it was the same song, but it was really upbeat. So every time someone from that school that went there the whole 7 years, like Reese or whatever, it would be like, why are you singing this song so weird? What happened to the somber song that we had drilled into our heads for 4 years? It was really weird.
Let's get into our more negative movies. I mean, you kind of said off the bat, like, this movie had some stuff that wasn't for you or didn't connect with you. So what are some of the more negative aspects of this movie, or things that just didn't really click or work, and why?
I feel like there's one character we haven't mentioned yet that I feel like could have been realized a little bit more. Patrick, which is the principal's son.
We could also say Pastor Skip could have been realized better too.
Yeah, there was more stuff going on with the principal, and but it could have been touched a bit more. So the son is introduced as, he was a missionary. He's come to school late. He's skateboarding. He's skateboarding. I think they even said that he's a year or two older because he had to do the missionary work or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. I remember that Macaulay Culkin's a year behind because he got crippled.
Oh, right. Maybe that's what I was thinking of. But anyway, he's introduced skateboarding. He's like, come in. And, he's skateboarding the whole way. And we're like, maybe he's a bit more rebellious. But
I thought he was going to be, like, the new kid who's, like, the bad boy.
Yeah, that's how he's kind of introduced. Like, doesn't he give the finger, like, within 10 seconds of meeting him? Or not?
No, I don't remember him.
He gave some sort of hand sign that was like really like casual. Maybe it wasn't the finger, but I just remember him raising his hand. Then he like fist bumped Macaulay Culkin.
Right.
So he's introduced, and you're thinking like, okay, they're saying all this stuff he did, and we're seeing how he behaves. We can kind of see that this is like a bad boy character coming along. But then they don't really do that with him.
They don't do really anything with him, except for he likes her, and he's like very loving.
He's very loving. He goes along with like Hilary Faye's plans, but he's not really into them. He
goes along with anyone.
Yeah, it just feels like, handsome love interest boy.
And it's weird to say handsome because he really did look like a high school boy.
He did, yeah.
Like more than anyone, he really looked like he was from high school.
Well, high school boys are handsome.
Yeah, but you know what I mean. Like, for Hollywood conventions,
yeah.
He didn't meet that typical, like, he's not like the guy in Mean Girls where it's like his character trait is he has nice hair. Like let's literally, like, the actor today has on Twitter like that as his bio. Like, I have nice, the quote from Mean Girls about him having nice hair, because that's basically all that character has too.
So basically, this character is nice boy, handsome. He's he gets with the main girl in the end. And if you're I guess if you're watching this film and you have a crush on him or whatever, that's good. But with the tone that this film sets up with its comedy and stuff like that, it feels like there needs to be something more to his character to like fit into this world.
It's annoying because I can see the justifications in the script and in the final product that they attempt to make him more of a character, with like him taking her out of the mall and hanging with her on like the Christmas display, and I can see these moments, or him with the scooter, or what was it?
The Vespa,
the
Ryan.
Vespa, and like there's all these moments that they try, but it just doesn't feel enough, and it feels like the characterization is off. It feels to me like they needed to go over the script again with that character, just that character.
201st time, yes.
Yeah, you know, it does. It just feels like he was very weak, or
I agree.
this could be something in the editing. It could have been edited down, or whatever. But me, I'm just a softie. I want more scenes between them so that I could build the romance, feel the romance, and you build the romance up for me.
Yeah,
I really feel like the romance of this movie is the weaker aspect. I mean, I appreciate the fact that he's a good guy and there's nothing wrong with him, but he's just a bit too flat for me. I wish there was more nuances.
For a teen film, it's like just acceptable. Like this, the 50% solid. It's like you need to do more to make it more than just acceptable.
Yeah, and I'm not too shocked by this. In a lot of these films that I've mentioned before, like Mean Girls and Heathers and whatnot, and this, and the male character love interest for the most part are usually kind of this shallow or a little bit like less developed, and that's often the case with a lot of female characters in similar positions. So you could see it as an equality, or like it's a homage to that, but at the same time I would argue I would just like a good character at the same time. Like, you know, like
even
this isn't such a satirical breakdown of these types of movies, as it is one of these movies, and it's using that movie formula to take down religion.
The one in The Wedding Date was interesting. Like, he was a gigolo, he was hired, he had like some funny lines.
Yeah, but that movie was a romance movie first. This is more of a coming of age, finding yourself kind of movie, comedy, then romance. I would say then lower down on the rung.
Then I guess 13 going on 30 with softer low.
Yeah, or
he had a bit more character going on.
But yeah, you know, I feel like they missed an opportunity with him. It is the biggest negative of this movie for me. I feel like him and his father are a bit bland, and the characterization's off. I'm not going to blame the actors. I'm going to blame direction and script. I feel like Father Skip is kind of, I don't know, he's just meh. Like, anytime it cut to him, I wasn't interested, and nor was I interested in her mother, if I'm honest. Like, Mary Louise Parker's a great actress, but I don't know, her mother, I guess I just didn't get her. You know, I didn't get what she was all about fully.
Yeah,
I feel like it was kind of like you got set up with what she was at the beginning, and then later it kind of felt like she wasn't the same kind of character, but maybe this is me.
She was like introduced as like sort of having a fling with the principal, the pastor. Then there's a scene where she's like dressing up and a bit more skimpy. She's like, "Mom, don't wear that." It's like, "All right, I'll take this off." And she's
that was amazing.
And then I remember the next major scene with her is like when they're in, I'm sure there was something else, but in the kitchen where they were like, "Would you send
me to Mercy House?" Yeah.
She's like, "Sure, why not?"
Oh, we didn't talk about, there is one great comedy scene that is with her and the mum when they're watching that like made for TV movie. And
Lifetime one, yeah.
The woman's like, you know, I thought I was pregnant because I had all these symptoms that our main character's having. And then I took my pregnancy test and I found out like it was actually cancer was giving those symptoms. And the scene ends perfectly with, she got that from a pregnancy test? like, can you imagine? How do you get that result? Like, you be in a pregnancy test and it's like, it's cancer.
You know how there's plus minus? It's when there's like a colon O face, like,
oh no. Man, that was a really visual reference because Bartek did the face and he looked like a puppet when you just let go of the mouth. And the eyebrows go up.
Yeah.
Yeah, Patrick's the weakest aspect, as is his father and her mother. I feel like those three characters, they kind of deflate some stuff. Like, I love the intentions of what they are. I just don't like them very much or feel for them. I don't hate any character in this movie, but they were the ones that I just go,
Yeah, I see
"Meh,"
Patrick
you
as
know.
needing a bit more going on, and with the two adults as just like refining what they were trying to do. Because there was like with the adults there was an aspect of like they had an affair and they're upset about that, and eventually the mom has a poignant line towards it's the dad. Sorry, yeah, the principal's like, because of our affair, your daughter got pregnant or whatever. And it's kind of like the thing with the principal is that they do the whole thing of like, he's the super religious guy, but he doesn't have like comedic extremes to
he
it.
flipped.
He flipped.
He did a flip.
Yeah, but after that, like the fact
No,
that
he was never funny.
Yeah, the fact that I forgot that he does a flip.
It would have been neat if he had some more comedic stuff to his character. Instead, he was just kind of like, it felt like he was from one of those actual religious movies.
He says gangster and fat at 2 points.
Yeah, but it's played for like they genuinely enjoy it. So I don't know, like it's odd. My big problem is the romance and that aspect of it. I think everything else works pretty well. I think for me the pacing was a little. It's not a long movie. It's 92 minutes, but for me, the pacing was a little bit slow in parts. I feel like it could have been tightened. When you're like, they could have refined the parents. Me, honestly, I would have just cut that shit. Like, and focused on the other stuff so that you can. The flow of the movie was
I'm saying
little
if they're gonna
off.
keep it, refine it. But I'd get rid of it too.
The flow of the movie was off for me. I don't know about you. It just felt a little oddly paced at certain points. Like when characters hit their low point, like, oh no, Macaulay Culkin got left in the car park. And then, like, they have to get back together, and it's, like, people driving around feeling sad. Like, I know this is what movies do. Maybe I'm just a bit sick of that, but, it's not just that. I feel like in some places, the pacing just kind of dragged its feet a little.
Yeah, when Macaulay Culkin was left alone, I didn't really see that as, like, a low point for him, and then the film told me that was meant to be. Because in the next scene, they reunite, and they're, like... We're talking about Cassandra, the Jewish girl, and him, their relationship.
It's implied, like, he slept there the whole night.
But doesn't he wheel through the town?
Yeah, but he's laying, like, then the morning comes up, like, the sun comes up, and he's, like, in front of the Jesus.
Fuck, I missed that.
And then he
whole
caught
thing.
the bus.
Okay, if I missed that, so maybe the film...
That was my interpretation of it. That's what I took from it, because then when they meet up, it's, like, morning. And that wouldn't make any sense because it would be night. Think about it. Like, they left at the end of school when the sun's setting. They would have been sitting at that cafe at night if it was he just wheeled to town.
I guess in my head I just imagined, like, he wheeled through town to home, then he went to the cafe next day, but I guess...
No, he laid in front of the Jesus.
Okay, so I'm a bit of an idiot.
Because he had no way to get home.
Right. Okay, yeah, that makes a bit more sense, but I guess since I missed that, I was like, oh, why do you think that was so bad? Like, he just went home
But
himself.
yeah, it's the characters hit their low point, separate off, feel bad. She's revealed to be pregnant. Like all the stuff's happening with all our characters. Everyone's feeling shitty except for Hilary Faye, who's feeling great.
Well, Hilary Faye and the trio were like trading blows. Like they found an embarrassing photo of her from when she was young, and then she graffitied the school and sabotaged them, got them in trouble. There was a bit of back and forth, but yeah, Hilary Faye kind of had more power going on.
Any other negatives that you feel about this movie, or anything that just didn't work for you? I have a few other things, but...
Let's hear them from you.
I know that this movie was a lower budget movie, or at least I got the sense of it, but for me, I didn't like the look of the movie. It had an odd color grading. I don't know. It obviously was cheaper. I'm going to give it a benefit for, like, I'll give it a pass on a level, but that doesn't mean that, it just didn't look visually as nice as some other movies. I don't know if it was something to do with the lower budget, but the color grading, cinematography, I don't know, something about it, just the color of the movie kind of just didn't amplify the feel of the movie. Like, it just visually didn't match what I think, just in color, like, looking at it, you just go, I don't know, something's off about this.
Was it filmed mostly on cloudy days?
I don't know.
Because I feel like this film had a lot of white going on, especially with their uniforms. So maybe the coloring of the sky, considering that the opening credits, it was going through, like, cloudy skies, yes, but there was still the blue behind it.
Yeah,
blue skies tends to be, like, related to religion, so maybe...
Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe if they had more blue skies, that would, like, give it
I think it just needed to look sharper. I mean, I think it's just a lower budget movie, and that's okay. Like I said, structure, pacing. Some of those little things were little, not great for me, but not enough. Like I said at the beginning, these can be considered major issues with the movies, like the visual look and the pacing and structure, but they're not big enough issues that outweigh the good things about this movie. And I think that's kind of it, really. I think, the movie ends, it ends exactly, happy and everyone's fine and they take a photo and all the characters are there and it's
and
all
the people
like,
from the camp ran away.
and it ends on a upbeat note, but the ending didn't really do anything for me. It was like, yeah, I guess that's where you can end it. Like, it's not an offensive ending. It's just not like, I don't know, just not a great ending. It's a serviceable ending for what I think was an interesting movie overall. It ended in a very serviceable fashion. That third act was very typical Hollywood third acts.
I remember when Hilary Faye started to direct her van at the Jesus statue, I was kind of like, okay, go for it.
I thought she was going to get crippled herself and then be like her brother. I thought it was going to be like a twist.
I thought she was going to be more injured for sure.
I mean, I liked her getting exposed. I thought that was great. I liked them forcing her to swear for God that she didn't do it, and they know it's a weakness, and then she does, and then she gets proved wrong by Tia, the girl no one likes.
Genuine lawful character, so that's good.
I like the threat that she makes to Tia, where she's like, "Yeah, I'll get rid of you and that good hair. Who will like you then?"
You know what Tia kind of reminds me of now?
What?
Do you remember when we did Drillbit Taylor? There was that one like dorky kid who like started off as being like one of the three dorky characters, but then he kind of became a cool kid.
Yeah.
Like she wasn't like mean, but she kind of started off as like the outsider.
Dude, you really need to see Jawbreaker. They have a character in Jawbreaker who's the narrator character, but not the main character, and she was like a dweeby character, and then she gets sucked into the world and becomes blonde and sexy and like an egotist, and he's very similar, but Tia was played a little less so. Like, she was still an all right person by the end of it.
I just remembered the line that made me laugh, and it's dumb.
What is it?
It was, you remember when they were going to pick up the first boyfriend and the parents were like, we sent him to the camp? When Mary went back to the van, Hilary Faye asked her, is he coming out?
Yeah.
That's what made me laugh.
Yeah, classic.
That's
classic
dumb.
Bartek.
That's so dumb.
And I think that's kind of it, isn't it, with Saved? I can't think of much else to talk about. I think
We definitely hit the big points.
I think this was a really enjoyable movie. I'm glad we recommended it. It was thrilling to go into something I hadn't seen before and come out at the other end actually feeling happy and feeling like I'd seen something. Macaulay Culkin, he did a really great job. I didn't expect it because I'm used to people talking shit about him as an adult actor, but I think he was great in this. I thought he was very fun and likable.
He stood out immediately.
He didn't look weird to me, like some people have said. This movie is really hard to find.
I
few
found
people have talked about it. I mean, apparently if you have Amazon, it's easy to find, but I don't.
Roger Ebert gave it 3.5 out of 4.
See, I'm surprised someone like Roger reviewed it, because I found it very hard to even find reviews of this movie. Like, when you type on YouTube, no one's really reviewed this movie. It's so odd. I thought this would be, like, it's a cult classic. I thought there would be a bit more of, like, a buzz about it. Like, there was a musical for Broadway or stage made about it.
On Wikipedia, I think the top line says that it was a sleeper hit, so it didn't get advertised much, but did decently well.
Yeah, well, I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, this was a fun recommendation. Thanks, Lucy. That was really great.
Lucy, you're the first person to have been a listening people choice person that has picked something that Ryan liked.
Woo!
I mean, obviously there's the element...
hated.
To be fair, we picked the film ourselves from the list of people, so it could have been anyone, but it ended up being Lucy.
Yes, Lucy. Thank you so much. If you listening people at home or in a grave or driving, wherever you are, or
you say in grave?
In a grave. If you're engraved. If you're in a
what did you actually say?
In a grave.
Okay.
That I've dug for them.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, I've said this every episode last like 3 where I was like,
have you?
I've dug a shallow grave for you. I've buried you in it. You're listening in a coffin. You got the headphone, the earbuds, and not earbuds, AirPods. Airbud is the dog movie.
Wait a second, superfluous is a bad word.
Oh my god. And if you are wanting to follow us, we're on the social medias of Facebook and Twitter, Spit and Polish Presents. And we have our email. What is our email, Bartek?
spitandpolisheded@gmail.com.
Yeah, or spitandpolished@gmail.com. You can email us for suggestions of movies you want us to cover, some thoughts about what we've said in the episode, threats, scams, whatever you feel. Just email us through and, we'll react to it internally.
Comment on Ryan's grave obsession.
My grave obsession with graves. Yes. Now, Bartek,
Oh yeah, that's right.
you're recommending a movie,
Yeah.
and we're going to be entering October,
Yes, we are.
which is this time for spooks and scaries and
Spooky month.
Spooky month.
We've got some. Ryan and I in real life have some stuff coming up, so we think we can get 3 episodes out.
At
in
least
October.
2 or 3.
2 or 3.
We'll see what we do. We've got some stuff going on in life. We'll delve into that more so in the future
Yes.
when we're getting closer to
Thing-
stuff. But yeah, we
Things
won't be
coming
able...
together, things getting separated.
We are not going to be doing full spooky month, but we're at least going to get some spooky picks.
Yes.
Now, Bartek, what's your spooky pick for spooky month?
I mean, this is one of the film that I've picked first is one of the ones that's like, okay, Bartek's getting this one out of the way. I think you can probably guess what it is.
No.
It's something that I've shown you already. So this film for Spooky Month, I picked it because it has some body horror, some action in it.
This isn't even spooky.
Oh, I mean, it's got body morphing stuff in it.
Fuck you! I know exactly what you're gonna say. Go on, say it. You fucking...
It's a story about a guy named Ricky.
Fuck you. You're given the chance to do Spooky Month and you choose like a fucking Hong Kong action movie or wherever it's from. I can't remember. I love you. You're like, we could do Spooky Month, or I could choose like a horror movie, but I gotta choose a movie where it's just violent. It's like if I said, no, Bartek, for Spooky Month, I'm choosing a little known film called Kill Bill because that movie has blood in it. I love it. So you're choosing, what is it?
It's called Story of Ricky, aka Ricky O, which both Rickies are spelled completely differently. I had another film pick, but then you said Spooky Month. I'm like, oh shit.
We gotta do Ricky.
I have to pick something a bit more spooky.
Spooky Month, so...
There's a ghost in it. There's a ghost in Story of Ricky.
Okay. Okay, great.
And drugs.
To specify for those listening, will it be what copy of this? Will it be subs, dubs, what?
We're going with the English dub.
Okay, because I want to make sure, because
Yes.
it's always, when we go into foreign cinema, we have to do these declarative statements of like,
For
subs or dubs.
just to reassure everyone, I think the English dub is easier to find,
Also, it's funnier.
and that's part of the reason. Yeah,
You love it.
It's
All
fine.
right, we'll be doing the story of Ricky.
No, just Story of Ricky. No,
No, I'm saying we're going to be doing the story of Ricky O.
no, the film's called Story of Ricky.
We're going to be doing story of Ricky O. See how that sounds different?
Now you're mixing it. It's Story of Ricky, aka Ricky O.
Fuck you.
And Story of Ricky is spelled Ricky, and Ricky O is Riki.
Why is it that?
I don't know. I think it's because so it's a Hong Kong film, but it's based on a Japanese manga, and I guess the manga was called Ricky O.
We'll be getting into it next episode. So that's basically it, listening people. Thank you so much for sticking through, listening to what we've had to say. Like I said, you can follow us on the social medias, Facebook and Twitter. If you can rate us and review us on whatever podcast platforming site allows it, that would be very much appreciated. Share us around. Say to your friend, hey, you know that movie Saved that you love? Somebody did a review of it, and then you throw this in their ears.
And like, oh my god, that's a childhood
And
classic.
it's Macaulay Culkin. He's like, I love Saved. And he puts it in his ears. It's like, oh my god, it's about me. Because, only, like, Macaulay Culkin loves his own work, is what I'm associating this with. Like, Macaulay
see that.
Culkin's the biggest fan of this movie, because he was in it.
Macaulay Culkin, why weren't you in
Ricky O, the story.
that, and why weren't you in Dickie Roberts?
That is a good question. Why wasn't he in Dickie
I
Roberts?
only just thought of it now.
So, until next time, listening people, remember that God is watching you.
I guess they had to give it to Jeff Conaway. Couldn't fit in Macaulay Culkin.
Yeah, they had to give it to known adult star, like known actor who's always an adult, Jeff Conaway, but
He was born an
instead
adult.
he was born an adult. He was never a child. Kaneki was always a man.